Used to be that people would say, oh, I'm not sure if we should be having a global team. And now almost nobody is saying that. But really, the answer is that people are people. They need a positive work environment. They need to be treated with respect and like people. They need to be fairly compensated. Most of all, they need to be spoken to and interacted with. You have to break free from the experience trap, and then suddenly you can do a lot of other things. But if you hire somebody because of their prior knowledge and ask them to exercise their prior knowledge, and then you ask them to accept some kind of a change, you've set up an immediate conflict with the goals of the organization and the person's sense of self and how they value themselves in the workplace. And this is where a lot of the organizational change runs into problems.
Welcome to Forging the Future. And today I'm sitting down with Justin Segal, president of Boxer Property, founder of Stemmons Enterprise, and co-founder of Relay Human Cloud. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You have a lot of irons in the fire.
It's true. It from the outside, it all feels very different, but from the inside, it feels very connected and similar in a lot of ways. It's having good normalized data. It's having data stewardship, and it's using data to drive decisions. And regardless of the business that we're in, if we start with those three things, everything downstream is easier.
So it's about the data. Interesting. Yeah, because bad data in, bad decisions out, right?
Yep. It's the foundation for all the businesses. And, the concept of the 10 principles starts with something that seems very dry, like data. And it ends with principle 10 is about personal fulfillment in the workplace and how we can have people have really good experiences that they're connected to, where they're enjoying the work that they're doing, where they're growing from it. And sometimes you think, okay, we're starting with data and we're ending with like self-actualization, but they really are connected in some very meaningful ways.
These 10 principles, are these something that you came up with?
Kind of. I mean, I was doing some presentations about how to create culture in the workplace. And I used the concept of subcultures and what makes for a successful subculture. And I got into the academics of it. And there are all these kind of things that successful subcultures have. And a subculture is a group that has shared norms and values. And if you think about a company as a subculture, you want people to interact with it in a way that preserves those norms and values. So I started looking at what other successful subcultures did. And one of the most successful ones that I had been exposed to is Burning Man. And, this is I think everybody knows about it by now, but it started a long time ago. And it grows to 80,000 people or something. And it's been going for 20 or 30 years. And one of the things that they do when you show up there is they give you their 10 principles. And I've been quizzed about it at the gate. People talk about them. So I took the 10 principles from Burning Man, and I didn't copy the content, but I copied the shape of them. Like how many words, what was the tone? And I created these 10 principles for our company. And then when everybody comes on the first day, everybody gets a printed version of them. We have training videos about them. We post on our internal blog about them. We use them in our meetings. So it's really become part of the fabric of what we do. And what I'm looking for there is for people to understand, how we're operating and what's important to us and what we value. And it's the same across all of our businesses. If you have people show up understanding what's important and how we think about ourselves, then the behavior often follows. But if you don't provide that context, then these things show up just without any intention or design. And that's where companies can kind of tend to get off the rails. The principles are not affected by AI. Okay. They're foundational, right? So they don't have to change for AI. But what happens with AI, as you mentioned, is you need good data. That's the beginning. You also need good architecture, and you need a good interface. And the interface is something that I see being problematic for a lot of people. because they're using AI in one of their vendor solutions. So it's like a departmental thing that they're just taking whatever the vendor has, and that's nice, but it usually is fairly limited. Or they're doing things that don't really connect to their other systems. And the problem that I see, I mean, there's a lot of great, cool AI stuff out there, like really fascinating. I love it. It's neat.
Fun to play with.
It's fun to play with, but the problem that we're seeing is so much of it is, first of all, it's human initiated, right? So somebody has to decide to use the AI. And that means that you have to count on the person to decide to use it. The second problem is that the person very often has to enter the data into the model in some way. So not only do they have to decide to use it, but they have to go get the data and put it in. And then, and this is the worst part, is that more often than not, the output is on a screen. And, the screen emits photons and it goes into your retina and it activates your neurons, and the person now, in a very sloppy way, is receiving that information and has to decide what to do. And so that whole loop of I'm going to decide, I'm going to go get some data, I'm going to put it in, I'm going to interpret the results, is by its very nature extremely limiting to what you can do with these tools, even though it looks fun. So we think of that kind of loop as personal enablement. It's making an individual's job better, but it's also still constrained by the concept of that person's job and the way that they're working. And so what we built is a system that starts with corporate data in a safe way. So it has access to all that information. And then we connect to a lot of different models. And I won't get into all the details, but basically it's configurable, so you can come up with things that you want it to do. You can connect to different models, so we can use different AI providers for different things, but bring back the results into our system. And at that point, we have a decision of, do we want to show it on the screen, which is great. That's a lot of times that's what we want to do. But also, and much more impactful, is, do we want to pass it to an API of some kind or have it take action on the corporate level? And that ability to have an automation that starts the AI. So it could be a schedule, it could be a factor-based or condition-based trigger. It could be some other system doing something. The ability to take the person out of it and only have them show up when and where we want them to from an architectural standpoint is where the true enterprise enablement comes from. And then to further kind of make it interesting to me, we decided to abstract it from any model, and we can choose and decide where it shows up, what model we're using. And I think that is really where the action is these days, rather than the kind of limited to one person with their decision party trick type of AI.
Well, it sounds like your approach is to take the person out of that loop. And a lot of people are worried about getting removed from the loop on AI. Approach for some of the other companies is that still involve the person, but augment their skill, right? For a doctor, for example, highlighting regions on an X-ray that they should maybe pay more attention to, or that they're inefficient in processing, then presenting that information. So when are you deciding to put the human back into your decision loop?
Well, the human is there the whole time.
Okay.
And but here's a metaphor, right? Think about a car that you may have been driving a few generations ago, right? Maybe you could tell how much gas was in the tank, but a human had to shift gears, right? There was no anti-lock brakes. You didn't have something that would show you if there was a car in your blind spot. If your engine oil was low, you would have to check it. So nobody's complaining right now that we've taken the human out of checking the oil. That we have taken the human out of the backup camera, the side airbags. Like, all of these things make our experience driving much better. And we don't have to waste our time doing things that the engineers in the automobile company have brought into the cockpit, into the dashboard, without us having to go manually do those things. if I put you in one of those older cars and you got in an accident, you might have a steering column coming through your chest like a javelin, and now you can crash a car at 80 miles an hour and like you're going to be fine. So what we're looking for is to empower the people in the company to do the things that only the person can do, and not have them have to go, for example, read through a whole list of things to find the important ones, or read through a whole history of documents to find the important terms, or maybe something comes in and it's urgent. We want it to be prioritized automatically, not by a person having to read through everything. Maybe the legal department needs to be notified. That should happen automatically. So we're really freeing up the cycles of someone's brain to work on things that truly add value, and not wasting their precious time on this earth doing things that we don't have to do.
Well, I like your car analogy because it's true. I mean, at one point you had to know and have the knowledge of like, hey, you might want to pump the brakes instead of locking them up as you skid across the ice or something like that. Now the car can do that for you, right? And the same thing like blind spot. You start to move, but the car beeps. And it's like, you might not want to do that, right? Because there's a car over there. And so I like that. And I think that's one thing that people need to understand is it is essentially augmenting, putting the user in a position where when do we need that user and their particular brain power to make those decisions, and all this other stuff can be done, and even skip the loop where you don't need to have them involved, and then that's where additional mistakes could be made because it is kind of low level, right? You don't really need to know. Well, let's switch gears a little bit because I know you have Relay, which is a remote workforce company.
Yep.
Throughout my career, been a big believer in work from home, and also most of my company is remote because we have developers in 22 countries, right? So they're not all just here in Houston, even if I wanted to say, everybody back to the office, right? So tell me a little bit about Relay and maybe, some of the challenges you faced in scaling a remote workforce solution like that.
Well, first of all, I'll tell you what it is and where it came from. So at our company, maybe in 2009 or 2010, we had 95 people in our accounting department, and they were all in Houston. And oil was really high, and we would hire someone out of college. They'd be with us for 18 months, and then they'd go jump to another company. And we said, look, this is just not sustainable. We tried outsourcing. It was terrible. Just didn't work. The first time we tried it.
Where did you go, just out of curiosity? What country?
We went to India.
Okay. Yeah.
And we decided that the outsourcing company was bad. So then we tried it again and it didn't work. And we decided, it must be us. And we got better and we tried it and we realized the problem was the model, right? We had a bunch of people doing work and the product that they were selling us was finished work. And we had no control. We had no interaction really. It was business process outsourcing, and they weren't our team. So we ended up just setting up an office in India, and we hired one person, and it grew from there. But the difference was that these people were integrated into our company. And so we started with accounting, we added IT, then it was legal, then it was architects, then it was marketing people, then it was data analysts, and it kind of marched its way through our company with each department learning how to disaggregate work into work that requires proximity and work that doesn't. But those people in our office in India were having a great corporate culture. It was a safe, secure place. We were following every labor rule. And to us, that's really important. So we ended up opening an office in Honduras and then an office in Mexico City. Along the way, friends of ours were saying, hey, can I have people in your office? Because they had tried outsourcing, and even in its best manifestation, you hit a ceiling pretty quickly about what you can do. They had tried having a bunch of freelancers, very dangerous in my opinion. Breaking labor laws in the foreign countries, breaking labor laws here, no security, no real connection to the people. You've got someone sitting in a coffee shop, and I've heard horror stories now that I'm in this business with, data breaches, with bad actors, with, people running 3 jobs at once. So we ended up with this model where and we believe, by the way, no offense to what you're saying, but we believe that office work is best. If you have a good office culture, if you create the right environment. And so we always work from the office, but the office can be anywhere. So with Relay, we found that a lot of people were attracted to that model. They wanted us to handle the annoying parts of opening in countries where there's a lot of bureaucracy, but they wanted access to the talent pool. They wanted the flexibility of being able to take people and not have a long-term employment relationship with them in case their plans changed. And I mean, for us, just at Boxer, forget about any other clients or anything. We've got about 1,200 employees. 350 of them are overseas. And the entire portfolio is here in the US. So I've got architects, assistant managers, people answering leasing calls, and we've really integrated into our company the idea of having people in different places, creating opportunities, very earnest people who are really excited about, the vibe that we have sometimes in the U.S. is not quite as positive with team members
because of cultural differences.
Well, I don't want to say entitlement, but if you tell everybody, hey, I need you to do this, you have to negotiate. And we decided to not fight against that, but instead to make the entire organization more serene, so people can leave on time from our office in the US. The work is still going on overnight.
The sun never sets on Boxer.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Or our clients at Relay. So if you think about it, like, it's just insane. People, let's just say you're a domestic only company. And I know you're not, but there are lots of them out there still. And they have this sense, our people need to be here. The people are working from home 3 days a week. They use 8 hours of the day, and everybody says they're busy. And then it's like that old Tom and Jerry thing where like they chase each other and then the whistle blows and they have it, like, companies just shut down for 2/3 of the day. And then if you think about the work that's actually happening, this work that can be done from anywhere, if you're paying way more than your competitors for the same work, which is mostly knowledge work, it's adding value to information, whether it's coding an invoice or doing marketing materials or doing the SEO or something. It's just adding value to information. So you have people who are having trouble finding talent. They're capacity constrained financially. They want to get more done, and yet they're still addicted to proximity. And Relay is what changed that for us. And now we're finding, it used to be that people would say, I'm not sure if we should be, having a global team. And now almost nobody is saying that. And instead what they're saying is, what's the right approach? And we feel like we did it for ourselves for 15 years. We figured out a lot of lessons of how to make it work. And that's what Relay is doing as a venture.
Well, how did you solve the job hopping problem? I mean, you have your culture, you had it in the US, people are still leaving after 18 months. And India famously has a job hopping culture. I remember when I was making a decision whether to be in India or in Eastern Europe, at the time I felt like I couldn't open an office there and compete with the talent, and the talent also wanted to change jobs very frequently. So how is it different in India than it would be like here in the US?
I don't think that it is that different, actually. In fact, it's a little bit less of a problem there, because if I have someone in real estate here, they go to some industry event, they come back with 5 job offers. It's not happening in the same way there. But really the answer is that people are people, and they need a few things to be happy and secure, right? They need a positive work environment. They need to be treated with respect and like people. They need a career path. They need to be fairly compensated. And most of all, they need to be spoken to and interacted with. And what we found is that if we do those things, people stick around. And if you treat them like a process and not like a person, then they leave. And that's the same here as anywhere else. Even worse is if they don't leave. So the last thing we want is somebody who's not effective, who's hiding, quiet quitting, all that kind of stuff. But we found that it's much more about the management style and the infrastructure that we put in. And when those things are done well, then the people stick around, and we work with our clients. There's a whole process to teach US-based companies how to work with global talent. And if we leave out that soft skill stuff, they have a tendency to go, oh, these guys are doing this thing. They come back in 6 months and then they're not connected to them. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff, but the job hopping has not been any worse there than it is here.
Yeah, not treating people like a commodity, right? And having some empathy and also understanding the cultural differences, because there are cultural differences between these different countries, right? I mean, there's the American go get 'em kind of spirit, and then there's the different levels of risk tolerance, et cetera. How do you see technology shaping the future of remote work?
So I think it's this really wonderful self-reinforcing. I mean, it may not be a perpetual motion machine, but it's as close as we can get today, which is that if you have good technology, then you have visibility, you have trackability, you have the ability to share work effectively. So our feeling is that we need an investment in data. We need an investment in process. We need a platform. Obviously, we built our own and now we're selling it. So we believe in that. The problem that a lot of companies have is it's like a chicken and egg thing, is they don't have the capacity or the money to do that. And I think the solution is global talent, because if you start and it can be done incrementally, but if the way to find extra budget is to get the same thing for less, right? There's no big pot of money sitting around at most companies to go invest in massive technology process updates. And so everybody will say, well, we don't have it. Well, you take, even by attrition, the next 5 people who leave to find another job or, move to another city or whatever, we just say, look, replace them with someone who can do the same work, in a place that's going to give your company back some capacity, and you can invest that capacity in better systems and data. Or you can invest it in product or in salaries for people here in the US, or more free time. You can let people work from home. It could be reinvested in a lot of ways. But the things that we've done in our company and the things that we've seen our clients do, where in my opinion, it's the only pot of money out there that's easy to get, is you go, we're going to take those knowledge workers and we're going to put them in the place that makes the most sense for the company. And we're going to reinvest the delta in the business, in our people here in the US, in our capacity. And it's the only, in my opinion, thing that is available to many companies right now. And the thing that really is nice about that is that it clears the way for what everybody really wants, which is AI.
At Softtech, we don't just follow the trends, we set them. As the founder and CEO, I've built a team that excels in delivering cutting-edge solutions in software, hardware, and IoT. From concept to completion, we're the partner that turns your tech dreams into reality. Softtech, where innovation starts. Okay, and how does it clear the way for AI?
Well, as you've said and others say, is you need to have good data, you need to have good systems, you need to have a team that's open to using these kinds of tools. And so everybody will say, okay, we want to have enterprise AI, or we want to use these tools, but they don't really have the workforce. They don't have data analysts. They don't have people who understand how to effectuate business process. They don't have a tool to do it. So what they end up with is ChatGPT and some little party tricks and whatever features their various siloed software companies have decided to turn on. But it's like AI theater. It's surface level. It's like we put a coat of AI paint on this company, and if we want to really be transformational about it, then we need to free up that capacity. We need to focus on some fundamental data issues. But we need to bring in people who can do those things, not teaching somebody who's a property manager how to use Python, but you need a Python developer, or you need someone who knows even like Power BI. And so that's where it comes from, is really doing those things in a meaningful way. It comes from creating the capacity with global talent and reinvesting some of it in the infrastructure and technology of the company.
What's your approach to creating a culture that is innovative and AI tech-centric?
Well, I'm going to start with something that may seem a little counterintuitive, but it really gets to the fundamental issue that most companies have. And it's that we have to break free from our dependence on experience, right? So most companies, they pride themselves on like finding experienced people. And if you think about what's going on here, it's actually quite destructive, because what they're doing is saying, okay, we need that person's gray matter. We need their prior knowledge that is stored in their cranium in order for this company to function. And the better we do at picking those people and renting their subject matter expertise, the better our company will do. So they post a job and they look at the resumes and they run it through a screener and they get these keywords.
And they want 5 to 10 years of experience or whatever it is. Right?
That's right. Meanwhile, those people are very often no longer interested in that work, but their lifestyle has expanded to the point where they won't get paid as much to do anything else. So they're stuck in it. And so what happens is the company hires these experienced people. They come in, everyone feels great about it. And now change is almost impossible, because we have trusted all of the knowledge and enterprise know-how to a bunch of brains floating around that can't even barely connect to each other, let alone remember anything. So what we need to do if a company really wants to transform and get innovative is start to have the enterprise itself have knowledge. And that means having process, it means having data. And once you do that, you bring in people who may be less experienced, but more flexible, better cognitive aptitude, more open to change. And they have a framework that is the enterprise to support them as they do these other things. And to me, that's really at the heart of it, is you have to break free from the experience trap, and then suddenly you can do a lot of other things. But if you hire somebody because of their prior knowledge and ask them to exercise their prior knowledge, and then you ask them to accept some kind of a change, you've set up an immediate conflict with the goals of the organization and the person's sense of self and how they value themselves in the workplace. And this is where a lot of the organizational change runs into problems. So the question I have for a company very often is, okay, show me do you have training? Do you have process? Do you have history? Do you have data? And if they say, well, we just hire experienced people, I go, okay, we got to start there.
I agree with you 100%. And I'm just thinking in my own journey with Softtech. I mean, a lot of times, of course, with an innovative project for a client, they want to always go back to that experience level. Have you done it 10 times before? But often a project that's innovative, you haven't done it before. And so we really need to take an approach of how you do innovation. You know, what's your approach to it? And I've really fought that in different times, both internally and externally. Because internally, it's like, well, we can't hire this guy because he only has like 6 months of Python experience. And I'm like, so he's a junior Python guy. And then I look at his resume and he's been a programmer for 20 years. Right. And my point was, if I teach myself Python over the next week, and it's not a very complicated language in my opinion, right? If I teach myself Python in a week, am I a junior Python guy? No. I'm not, because I know a dozen programming languages, right?
Yeah.
And so this is the mindset, right, that you have to really lean into. Or, like you said, processes. We've done different projects where, you do have to train the people from the beginning. Like when IBM first was trying to find, programmers, there were no computer science majors. And so they looked to like music majors because they saw that they had the similar approach and aptitude to saying that they were taking this encoded work and it has to be played in a certain sequence in a certain order and it outputs something that's beautiful, right? Mm-hmm. Very similar to programming, right? Because programming is a very creative process. So it's an approach to how you take a project and apply people to that have that. The skill is really that, and the company's skill is, hey, we haven't done that before. Great. This is the type of project we want to do, right?
Right.
So 100%. And the client also has to have some education about that. Part of it is because they get told a lot by companies that, oh, we haven't done it before and we can do it. And then they bring them on and they can't do it. So you really do have to look for companies that have that particular innovation mindset and approach. And it's not just, oh, I just want the project and I'm going to give it a go, right?
Yes. So I agree. And I see that. I think of it a little bit like, do you know those dinner boxes that you can get where it's like a dinner kit? Mm-hmm. And so they've done the shopping, they've found the recipe, they've selected the ingredients, they've portioned it out, and they send it to you and you cook it, right? So maybe it's Italian food. And if you can give that to someone and they can put the Italian food together, they can also do Mexican food. But if you take an Italian chef who knows what farmer's market to go to and has the recipe in their head and is very attached to the idea of cooking Italian food, and you tell them go do Mexican, it's like, hey man, that's not me. Right. And so if I can create in our company the equivalent of the dinner box, like, hey, here's how we take over a property. Here's what we do in the morning. Here's the data that's coming to you. You're getting exception-based information. There's some contextual training. You can ask the AI, it'll give you recommendations. And then I take that person from an office building and I say, okay, now you're, running a golf course. They can do it because the contents of the box are different, but we've selected somebody for aptitude. We've selected somebody for engagement. And I think if you don't have the ability to create that in your enterprise, then you are stuck with experience and you're not going to innovate in the same way.
Very interesting. Well, I'm sure we can talk for another couple of hours about this. Thanks for coming on and sharing your words of wisdom. I don't know if you make those 10 principles public, but I would love to see them sometime.
I will. I'll email you a copy.
Okay.
If I had thought ahead, I would have brought the hard copy, but I was so tired of seeing principles that were like integrity, teamwork. And so I came up with some that we could actually make a difference.
Definitely would like to take a look. And I have some socks for you. I know you do so many different things. These are more property oriented, but
great. Thank you. Yeah, I love socks and I love property.
Yeah, maybe it'll inspire you to do international properties.
Well, you never know.
Well, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.